Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football. Hello and welcome back to the Attacking Football podcast. Joining me this week, returning, is young Alex. Alex, welcome back, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing good, mate. How are you doing?
Very well, very well. Thanks
Lovely.
for asking. This exciting one this week. Also joining me, as ever, is Dylan, Attacking Football royalty. Welcome, mate.
How are you doing? How are you doing?
Good. And relegated back to the producer booth this week after making his debut last week is Alfie. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Back to just the voice this week, so you don't have to. Now I'm back.
And our special guest. I don't think this man needs much of an introduction. He's one of the country's premier transfer journalists, Graeme Bailey. Graeme, welcome, mate.
Thank you, guys. Far too kind.
It's true. It's true. I think every single one of us on this podcast have been following you for a while. I know I've got my notifications turned on for your tweets, definitely. Just before we get going, Attacking Football does have a competition running at the moment over on our Twitter, so go and follow it. If you join our Attacking Football FPL League, there's a chance to win a football shirt of your choice. So go and do that and subscribe to the podcast because that's one of the conditions. Okay, Graeme, now we've got the nitty-gritty stuff out of the way. I wanted to talk very quickly on the Euros because we've only just gotten over them. We're a week away. What were your thoughts on the Euros and England? How did we do? What went wrong?
Yeah, it was obviously a massive disappointment getting to the final, but I think getting to the final, considering how we started, was a plus point. I thought the squad selection wasn't great from the outset. I'm a huge Levi Colwill fan. Anyone who follows me knows I've been trumpeting him since Huddersfield. When you pick a player up very early, you always like to stay with him. So, and even Lewis Dunk was taken, and I think he's a very good Premier League defender. But there's so many better other options, left-footed ones from Levi Colwill to Jared Branthwaite to Max Killerman, who's just gone to West Ham. Any one of those three would have been excellent. I know Matt Gay did okay. I think people, for me, I thought he did very well. I think it'd be a bit over the top by how good he was, to be honest. I would have liked to have seen a left footer in there. I think, Ty Mitchell would have gone for me from Palace. Another Palace player. I agree. Did tremendously well. He got picked. He's got an England cap. He got on where he's not as playing as well as he is now. I'd have took him, and I thought that just unbalanced us. And then even when we went back to the wing backs to then not bring Trent in and play Bukayo on the other side, there was a lot of very confusing decisions. It's a tough one, and and we'll see. Obviously, Gareth's gone now. Obviously, it's hard for me if Gareth Southgate's an absolute Middlesbrough legend, and as a player, he's one of my favourite players of all time. But as a manager, it is what it is, and we'll see where we go with the manager. I've written a few stories on the pieces. I think it'll be one of three: Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, or Lee Carsley. And I think for me, it would be Howe or Carsley. A lot of people have watched a lot more of the Under-21s than I have. I think that Carsley is very progressive. He's got Ashley Cole with him in his coaching team. And I think that's a good message for just St George's Park and the FA. The way that they bring these young players on is a sign of the system working, and the way you bring the coaches on as well. So, if not Eddie Howe, because I think he's attainable, Eddie Howe. I've written a few pieces about this.
I've seen,
I linked him in January because it was my understanding that the FA knew that Southgate was going basically, and they've been doing their due diligence on that. And I think Eddie Howe is a prime candidate. I think he's very happy at Newcastle, but as I like to get this explanation over actually, guys. So let's put that on the show where the Eddie Howe situation is that. Yeah, Newcastle Daniel says he loves him, but he's under a massive amount of pressure this season, Eddie Howe. A huge amount of pressure. And I've said this before, there's probably only Mikel Arteta and Pep Guardiola who aren't 4 or 5 defeats in a row away from being sacked in the Premier League. That's just how English football is. Yep. So I think with Eddie Howe, I think he's taking all this into stock. Newcastle, Piff, I do say so, Newcastle fans, Piff are in this to become the best team in the world.
Yeah.
They're not going to be happy with they've dropped out of the Champions League. If any Newcastle fans thinks Piff are going to be happy with 5th next season, they really won't be.
No.
So I think Eddie Howe will be thinking the same thing. He'll know this as well. I believe that Piff, my understanding, they sort of read the right act to him in the summer, said they've got to get this has to be better. it's not good enough about missing out on Europe. And so, I think I'll come into Eddie Howe's thinking. So, it's going to be a very interesting few weeks here, because I think the FA, for one, Howe, will have to make that appointment before September. Because I think if they put Lee Carsley in caretaker charge for the Nations League, and then he wins his Nations League group, wins 3 games 4-0, he'll have to have the job, won't he?
He will have.
Qualifies in March. So I think it's a very big decision for the FA. So I think, if Lee Carsley takes the caretaker job in September, I don't see how he isn't the next permanent manager.
You've gone on like a very English route with that, and there's been a sort of a pipe dream with English fans, going back to like Arsene Wenger gunning for the job all those years ago. Do you not see a Pep Guardiola, a Thomas Tuchel sort of line? Those names have been linked. Mauricio Pochettino. Do you not see that at all, or is the FA strictly going with that English line of thinking again?
I think the line of thinking, guys, is this is. I'm robbing this stat from a radio interview I heard the other day. How many foreign managers have won the World Cup for that country?
None.
Exactly. Rest my case.
Yeah. On Eddie Howe, I've heard on good authority from a colleague of yours that there may be a little bit of friction between Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell over transfers. I think there's a suggestion that Paul Mitchell thinks the Eddie Howe transfers of the last couple of years have been a bit injury prone, a bit subject to sitting on the sidelines, maybe. Is that your understanding?
Paul Mitchell's come in. He wasn't first choice for the board. We know that they missed out on Dougie Freedman at the time. Yeah. He's going to come in and he's trying to make his own indentation. John Clare Todibo is one who's come in. My understanding, that's a Paul Mitchell target, not an Eddie Howe one. So it's already scratching the surface. There's issues there. Obviously Newcastle coming out and saying they love Eddie and all this, but it's not I'm not going to say it's in a happy camp, but you couldn't describe it as a happy camp at the minute.
So since we're on the subject of PIF, I wanted to have a quick chat about the influence that the Saudi market has had on football in general and transfer fees around the world. We've seen a lot of, let's say, lower profile players moving for high profile prices between English clubs for reasons. I won't speculate as to what those reasons are, but I know that you in particular have some very good sources in Saudi. What's their end game here? What are they trying to achieve? Is it just rich men playing with toys, or are they genuinely trying to make their league one of the best leagues in the world?
Yeah, I know a lot of people accuse me of being pro league, and I guess I am to a certain extent. But I see it as they've got every right to do this. There was Westerners sat in our high chairs. Oh, we can't have football going over there. I think that there is that aspect to it, guys. I think the Saudis got every right to, and I think they're doing it the right way. And a lot of us think of Saudi Pro League, we think all these astronomical fees, etc. If you take away the Neymar deal for Al Hilal, which was around about 90, but it was probably less, the highest fee after that is like Ruben Neves. Yeah. Their money is going on the players. It's not really going to the clubs. They're being quite strict. They're not really flooding other markets with money. Look at Edison. Al Nassr pulled out of that deal and went for Beto because they wouldn't go above 25 million. As it stands, Al Ittihad are coming back in from as well. But we're not, City around about 40 million for Edison would take it, but no one's getting near that at the moment. They're not. I think Mo Salah aside, I think he's a separate issue. I think if he agitates for a move, they will pay 150 million. But that's slightly different given he's a Muslim player and he's the one key sign they want to make. So I think that's a separate. I think we put him to the side. Everyone else, I think they are doing it the right way. I think they will get a TV deal at some point. It's going to be a league we want to watch. I like the MLS. I don't love it. I like the MLS, but when I saw LA Galaxy signing 35-year-old Marco Reus, my shoulders slumped, and I thought, "What's the point in that?"
Yeah,
that depressed me. That signing, I must admit, it's like, come on, MLS, you're better than that. You are better than that. The 35-year-old Marco Reus, if you're signing a Ronaldo who was still at the top of his game in Europe, fair enough. But Marco Reus, who was probably struggling to make the bench for Dortmund, and you go, he's a big name signing. So I think the Saudis are doing it the right way. Obviously, they've got the advantage of this money. It's getting more competitive. We've seen Al Qadisa come up, and they've got Aramco behind them, so it's going to become more competitive. And I do like pro, and if they want to do this, let them do it. I hate this we're far superior. It's not in
It's
the
the
Premier League
holier than
elite
thou
matches.
attitude, isn't it? It's the holier than thou.
Exactly that. Yeah,
No, I understand.
and I think we've been surprised how much the Pro League has impressed to a certain degree. I think they're investing. I think it's been a good investment. We're seeing some good young players go over there as well. I thought there'd be more. I did an interview with Michael Emenalo late last year, where he did confirm that the South American market was something he'd be looking at. And I think in the next few years we'll see them doing that. And I think that's where actually you'll see the Premier League biting back. And I do wonder if it's a consequence this summer. We're seeing an awful lot in the last few windows. We're seeing English clubs really raid the South American market. Yeah. I think they're probably fearful that the Saudis are on the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with. Oh no, Ellie, you want to go?
Well, just one last question, and then it's yours, Alex. Do you think the Saudi market is having an impact on transfer fees as a whole, though? I know we briefly touched on there that they aren't really paying massively over the odds, but the transfer fees are inflating quite substantially, in England especially. Do you think that's coming from Saudi, or is that a direct result of PSR not being good enough?
I think it's Premier League thing. It's something a former colleague of mine at 90 Min used to say, my friend Toby Cudworth. He used to call it Premier League tax, and that's a real thing.
Yeah,
it really is. Some of the deals that we're looking at this summer. So Eddie Nketiah is going to carry a price tag of 50 million, and that's sort of reasonable because following Balogun went for 40, so he has to be 50, and then the only way, the Premier League clubs are making rods for their own back here. So, the market price has been set. Like Everton demanding 75 for Branthwaite, which is completely fair when you look at what Fofana costs and Gvardiol costs and Maguire costs. Nottingham Forest are asking a similar fee for Murillo, 75 million. And people going, so they should ask that. If the likes of Fofana can go for a similar price, who I like, to be fair, but then Gvardiol as well. So the Premier League clubs are setting these markets themselves.
So I firmly agree with that. The selling club should always set the value that they are worth to the club, not the value that the buying club thinks that they're worth. Because if you want to buy my player, you pay the price that I think that they're worth to me. And I agree with that entirely.
But I think they should, and this it sort of relates to the PSR thing, where I think clubs should be allowed to spend what they want. I think the Premier League have shot themselves in the front. The rest of Europe are laughing at the Premier League with this PSR stuff. Football isn't all about the richest clubs. It's about who has the best recruitment. Man City isn't necessarily just because they're the richest or the best. No, it's because they made the best recruitment. Because they brought in Soriano and Tixi off pitch. So I say all the time, I bang this drum all the time. Football is about recruitment. Good recruitment. Look what United are doing now. Dan Ashworth in place. INEOS is such a clever bunch of people. There's a reason Jim Ratcliffe is like the richest man in Britain, whatever. He's got Sir Brailsford and Jean-Claude Blanc advising him on sport and stuff. Sir Jim isn't sat there doing it all himself. He's got the right people there and he's not micromanaging them. Sir Brailsford and Blanc have brought the right people in. Dan Ashworth, who the only reason he got Ashworth because Brailsford is close to him, but then he's brought Jason Wilcox in. He's brought Barada in. And United are getting it right off the pitch now, and that's key. It really is. And look at Chelsea; they can throw all the money around in the world, but they still haven't got it right off the pitch. Yeah. If you throw enough mud, some will stick. But we still don't know what Chelsea are at the minute. No,
I don't think Chelsea know what Chelsea are at the minute. But I mean. Alex, you wanted to talk about INEOS, so I think this is the perfect time to do that.
Yeah, no, it's impressed me massively how INEOS have come in. And I think, comparing it to talking about Saudi Arabia a second ago, I really do think the old United system sort of shot themselves in the foot, bringing in Casemiro and Varane. And there was an expectation this summer that they could be moved on to really large fees to Saudi Arabia. I think United certainly thought that with Casemiro. And that sort of cooled down in the last few weeks because Saudi Arabia have moved away from buying these older, bigger names, preferring to go after younger, sort of better talents to build up the floor of the Pro League. So just with INEOS, what do you think has been the key factor with them coming in? Do you think it's Dan Ashworth? Do you think it's David Brailsford? What do you think has been the key changing point for them?
I think Sir David Brailsford, he's he's a fascinating character. I've met him in passing briefly a few times, but the stories I'm getting is it's the detail, you know. I get referred back to what he's done with the Olympics and the cycling. It's the minutiae, it's the detail, making sure everything is done, not to perfection, but to the best of their ability.
It's marginal gains, isn't it? That's the word he uses.
It's any given Sunday, was every inch or whatever that Al Pacino quote is, you know, every little bit matters. And the way Dale Steerbills has gone in there, he could have been the king of the throne. Oh, look, Sir Jim's giving me this club to run. Now I'm going to run it as I see fit. But he hasn't done that. You know, he's got Blanc next to him. They brought Barada in, Wilcox. They brought in Dan Ashworth, who is key to the whole thing. But they've gone for Dan Ashworth because, you know, the attitude of the club, the way they want to be run, the way they want to be respected. And I love the way INEOS are working. I love what they're doing. And I think it's really positive. But you know, you were talking there previously about Casemiro and Varane. I think they really look like brilliant signings if you compare them to what United did last summer. Like last summer, is, Mason Mount, Højlund, Anthony Onana. Oh dear, you know, and them deals, as we're saying, Mason Mount and Anthony. Did appear, you know. United would get rid of Mason Mount and Anthony tomorrow in an ideal world, but no one's going to take them. Onana in goal, they downgraded the goalkeeping department for a reason only known to themselves. There was no need to do that. And Højlund, it was a decent player, but they paid more than twice his worth. He was a £70 million striker. They brought Xerxes in now to compete with him, but I'd be amazed by then seeing if Xerxes is not ahead of Højlund in the pecking order. To be fair, I'd be amazed if he's not ahead of him in the pecking order by the end of September. But
do you think? Do you think there's been a lot of like rival fans saying that United were taken to the cleaners on the Xerxes deal because of the agent fees paid to Kia Jorabian? I think that's how you pronounce his name, anyways. Would you agree with that statement?
Not at all. Not at all. I think agent fees that was just used as an excuse to delay Milan. You know, that was just used as a pure excuse for them not to sign for Milan. The agent fees, etc. What you pay agent fees on every single deal in the world, and you know, no, that was just a smoke screen for Kia Jorabian and Xerxes people. And Jorabian was happy to take the stick on that rather than the player. Yeah, everyone blame me. He's not bothered as long as I get my player the right move. As soon as they knew United and obviously it was Arsenal, Liverpool, the Premier League clubs were interested. That's why Milan were desperate to get that deal done by July 1st. They wanted it done and dusted. As soon as they knew there was Premier League interest, they were suckered in. No, that was just a purest. The agent fees just a pure smokescreen to delay the issue, and it worked.
My favourite story from recent stories out of Old Trafford is INEOS took one look at the Amrabat deal and went, "That's not happening." The terms of the buy option at the end of his loan for 20 million euros, they said, we want him, we'll take him, but not on those terms. Is that what you heard as well? Because that's the message that I got. Was we want to take him, we want to exercise that option, but the terms of the deal that have been negotiated by the previous regime, we're not getting anywhere near that.
I haven't heard too much on him actually. I do know he's still on the long list. He's not very much at the top of the list, but that wouldn't surprise me. You know, it's one who to consider. So we'll see on him, but I hadn't heard that side, but it doesn't surprise me. You know, the way I think they were shocked. I know they're shocked and horrified, shall we say, with some aspects of the other deals we've mentioned. So I think the Amrabat one was probably a lesser of five evils last summer.
Okay, fine. Look, it would be silly of us now not to move into some of the biggest transfer stories that are happening at the moment. And since we're on United, Graeme, is the Ugarte deal going to be done this week? Because it seems pretty close, doesn't it?
It's progressing. Talks are ongoing. Obviously, PSG are very, very busy boys at the minute. João Neves being their main focus of attention at the moment, and they are getting there with Benfica. You know, United know that Ugarte is available. I don't believe talk of 70 million, etc. is way over the top. I think it's more under 40, 50 if they get their money back. Is the plan? Neves, they're working on it because they know they're not paying 100. I think Benfica relenting there. So I think once they get to Neves or get to that final push, then I think United know it'll be somewhat easier to progress with their deal. But it could happen. We know United wanted him ahead of the tour. I did a story last week on that United wanted Ugarte in ahead of the American tour. I don't think he'll be far away from that. But yeah, he's the one they are progressing with. He's the one they really want. You know, I think it's such a clever signing if they do get him over the line. Everyone forgets how much Ugarte was wanted by the whole of Europe before he went to PSG. Chelsea came ever so close to getting him. Someone thought he's a special player. I think he's a real... You know, I always thought that United, I loved the De Jong link. I always thought De Jong and Manu would be great. But Ugarte, and if De Jong's still available, I'll still go for him. I think he's an absolute prince of a footballer. But I think Ugarte would be close to my list of next options. I think he's a tremendous footballer. The second best Uruguayan player, because obviously nobody's as good as Fede Valverde, who for me is the best player in the world.
Jesus Christ.
But Ugarte, yeah, a special player. I think him and Manu is mouth-watering. Obviously, United are in talks with the Pro League to move Casemiro on, which I think they will do. Might have to take a small loss on him, but getting the wages out is the main thing with Casemiro. It's not really the fee, it's more the wages. Yeah. I think that'll happen. So, yeah, will it be done this week? I'll say no, but we'll know. I think by the end of the week, we'll see it moving on quite a bit.
Okay. Do you think in regards to bringing Ugarte in, I know they need to sell a player. It might be Casemiro. How likely is Mctominay to leave before the end of the window? Do you think?
I don't think he is. No, I think obviously the thing with this PSR thing, which I think is a dreadful thing. It's a scourge in English football. This PSR thing. It's these homegrown the homegrown players being sold for pure profit. I heard, I can't remember, I think it was Christian, can't remember his name, the old Aston Villa director, who came up with the idea. He said something on the radio and I completely agreed with it. That a homegrown player should not count towards anything. Like Mctominay, Conor Gallagher should be free, completely free. You should be encouraged to keep these players in your squads, not to be first out the door. It's completely wrong. It's the wrong way around. And I think it needs to be stopped. I think Mctominay... No, I think he's more likely to sign a new deal. I'll be honest. I think Ten Hag loves him. The player doesn't want to go. United will probably put a price tag of 40 million on his head. I don't think anyone will pay that. So I don't think McTominay goes.
I think Scott's interesting because he's quite divided by the United fan base. Like, I think it's a bit like Marmite. Another player who reminds me of Marmite is Adrian Rabiot, a man also linked to United. Do you have any truth to those links? Or any other Premier League clubs? Liverpool have been linked, among a few others. What's your opinion on that?
I think this time last summer, United would have been all over him on a free, such as the way they were run last summer. I don't think there's a chance that INEOS touch him with a barge pole. I don't think Liverpool. I don't think Liverpool touch him with a barge pole. I know Laurent Blanc now in charge of Etihad. I'd be surprised if he doesn't turn up with Laurent Blanc at Etihad, personally. Yeah, I don't think he turns up in England. He's on a lot of money. He's 29. He's a top quality player. Of course he is. He really is. Would he get in most midfields apart from Man City? Even then, he would get in most midfields. Could someone take a chance on him? Possibly, but for that age and the wages, I don't see it being Liverpool or United because I think it's more important for them to get these ones right. And we know Arsenal aren't in for him, as it seems. City aren't being linked to him. So, no, I don't see it. And obviously, Chelsea, one of the few players Chelsea aren't linked to. I don't see him turn up in England, but I'm hearing United and Liverpool is a non-starter. I think they've all looked at him. He's on the list and they quite like him. No, you can't hate Rabiot. He's a quality player. But I just don't think he fits in with what either of those clubs are trying to do.
I just don't want his mother around the club. That's the issue I've got.
Yeah. She's a wild character.
Yeah, isn't she just? While we're on United, and this is 5 United fans on a podcast. We are not a Man United channel. We will talk about other people. Jadon Sancho going the other way to PSG. Is there any legs in that?
Did the piece today? There's been an inquiry. I think PSG have asked a question. No more than that at the moment, I'm told. There's been a lot of talk between PSG and United over the summer, from Marcus Rashford to Sancho to Ugarte, Xavi Simons. But no, at this moment in time, don't get me wrong, if they put 60, 70 million on the table,
well, you have 50, to say that.
Even 50, I guess United would, but they're not actively looking at loaning him out at the minute. I think they're going to give him more time. PSG, yeah, I would argue they like Marcus Rashford more, and I still wouldn't 100% rule that one out. But obviously, they're doing Osimhen, they're doing Neves, they've got other priorities on their list at the moment.
Okay. Is Victor Osimhen seen as the Mbappe replacement then? Is that the sort of... I know they're not like-for-like replacements, but both superstar forward signings. I was intrigued where they'd go down even like a Vogue route, like a Somerville route. But it's obvious they've gone and chosen Victor Osimhen as that sort of man.
Crenshaw Somerville for PSG.
Yeah, that was my Vogue Mbappe replacement, that.
Wow, okay. I think that's an interesting one. If you wanted the streets of Paris burning down, I think they should go that way. Yeah, wow,
that's wild.
Wow, that's knocked me sideways. Yeah, I think interesting with the caliber of someone like Barcola, who I think is a little superstar. I think because he's in there on the left. They were looking at Leao at Milan, but I think because Barcola's come on so well, they are looking at a central man. And my understanding is they're happy to get rid of Goncalo Ramos, who one of the biggest flops of all time. I must admit, I never rated him before he went there. Randall Colomboani as well, he's available, and they've both been offered to Chelsea, by the way. But Osimhen is one they're working on. Yeah, I'm still amazed that Chelsea haven't really gone harder on Osimhen, I must admit. But yeah, they're pushing for that, and I think Osimhen will leave, and I'd say most likely PSG. I still wouldn't rule Chelsea out completely of that one, I must admit. But I think it looks like Osimhen and Neves. So that'd be a pretty strong summer for PSG.
Well, it looks like Lukaku's about to go to Napoli, doesn't it? So that would be a really easy deal to do, you would think, with Osimhen going the other way.
Conte's there as well, so he would work there. They've got and obviously they're keeping Kabashvili. Obviously he wanted to go, but there's no chance of Napoli letting him go at any point this summer.
Worth also mentioning that West Ham have submitted a proposal for Somerville, so PSG seems unlikely.
Oh, PSG, West Ham, they're similar quality.
So I'm not sure there's been confirmation from the Leeds end just yet. There's a lot of interest. I'm not sure there's been an official offer yet, but I think he's on a lot of lists, Somerville.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's met the asking price yet. So, West Ham are other priorities ahead, and West Ham do have other priorities before a winger, another centre half, and a striker's been the main one, obviously. And we might talk about John Duran in a moment. So, don't think it's quite a done deal, that one.
Tipping on you spoke about Chelsea there, and also about the PSR thing being so stupid and ridiculous. What happened with Trevo Chalobah today is ridiculous. Him being left out of the USA squad, Chelsea are looking to sell him. A lot of Chelsea fans are really angry about the situation. Have you heard of any Premier League interest for Chalobah? I know United were linked in the past, but I don't see that deal happening. But outside of United, have you heard of any other Premier League interest in Chalobah?
There's a lot of interest in him, a lot of clubs. Unfortunately for him, I think he thinks he's a top 4 player. Unfortunately, the rest of the Premier League doesn't think that, which is why none of the top 4 are interested. This is a fascinating situation. I'm going to do a piece on it tomorrow on Hit C. That this is a real sign of where the power is at Chelsea, and it's not with the new coach Enzo Maresca, which I didn't think anyone sensible didn't think that he had much power anyway. But this is, he's been told not to take Chalobah, and he hasn't taken him. It'd be interesting to see what we see quotes from Maresca, see how he substantiates what he's done, because he's going to get the blame for this from the Chelsea fans. It's obviously, we know it's a tactic from Chelsea to get him out. It's going to bring other clubs out the woodwork. The West Ham, the Palace, at the Forest. They signed Milinkovic. I don't even think Forest are in for him at the moment. Matt Gay hasn't gone, so I'm not sure if Palace will be in for him. I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle come sniffing. But again, we talked previously about the Premier League tax. We know Newcastle and West Ham both looking at a couple of Milan players, Tamuri and Tor. And they'll probably be cheaper than Chalobah. Probably that's the problem you have in the Premier. You know, Forest just went and got Milinkovic for less than £20 million. The Serbian defender, who's an outstanding player, the Fiorentina guy. We know Milan are about to get Pavlovic as well from Salzburg for less than 30. It's just no wonder these clubs go looking abroad sometimes, guys. It's I think Chalobah, he might you know, if he decides he's got a deal to 2028, it wouldn't surprise me if he's still start at the end of the window, not just start the season at the end of the window. I don't think he'll be forced out.
And
that's interesting.
You mentioned Duran there. Why has Chelsea's move for Duran fell apart? It seemed so dead certain at the beginning of the window, but now obviously it looks like he's going to another club. Why do you think that fell apart?
Maybe they're opening their eyes. They valued him at around 20. Villa wanted twice that amount. West Ham are getting close to it. I've done a story today. They're getting towards 35, 40. I think that's ridiculous money for someone who's full of potential. But if you're West Ham, I think it's a massive, massive risk. For a player who Villa are trying to move on as well, which I think would be give me a few alarm bells. You know, if Unai Emery's that happy to part with this player, you know, I've seen him play. I think he's a good player. He's full of potential, but that's a lot of money to pay for potential.
Yeah,
and West Ham need a finished product, and yeah, don't get me wrong. He might turn out to be absolutely outstanding. He's got all the, you know, if you're building a robot football, he's got everything. He's got pace. He's got power. But it doesn't always result in a great footballer. You're buying potential, and that's a lot of money to pay for potential. It really is. Now, and I'd worry for West Ham doing it. But I think, from my understanding, Tim Steidman really likes him. He wants to do it. David Sullivan's giving him the keys to the castle at the moment, so he's letting him do the deal. And I think that one will get done. But going back to the question, Chelsea just didn't rate him at 35 with a deal worth 40 million.
I mean, West Ham seem to be making a few bold moves in the transfer window. There's some are going after John Duran, who you have harsh words for. But N'Golo Kante is another name that's.
I think John Duran's goal scoring record would back me up on that.
He's done quite well at that. Moving on to Kante, he's someone who you he said been offered to all the London clubs. And that interests me. Someone who seemed dead set to sort of end his career out in Saudi, almost had a career revitalisation in the Euros, and seems keen on to move back to the Premier League.
He is. Obviously, intermediaries are hard at work. You know, obviously, he really likes it in London. Hence, he's been offered to these clubs. I think he would have to take a massive wage drop, which is the indication. Etihad don't want to lose him, though, really, and the Saudi Pro League don't want to lose him. So it's going to be a tough one to do. Again, West Ham's a strange one because I don't really see where he'd fit in at West Ham. I know he's that good, but you know, West Ham are pretty well stocked there, and it was one of the reasons Calvin Phillips didn't do well there because they didn't need him. So Kante, keep an eye on Kante. It'd be interesting to see, because the thing is with Kante as well, he's not the sort of player to agitate for a move, is he? But I think, you know, he's going to be an interesting one for the rest of his window. Let's see how the Saudi Pro League deal with it, because they don't need to sell. I think he'd be a bit of a loss for them, a bit of a high-profile one. But let's see. I wouldn't discount it totally, but I don't think anyone's desperate to do it.
I was really quite interested when you said London was a key thing for him. How big is like cities like London, whether in like Madrid in Spain? How often are those key pulling? Is that big of a pulling power?
It can be, especially, you know, for a club like Newcastle. It can be a hard sell. Obviously, I'm up here in the northeast myself, and you know, my own team, Middlesbrough, we used to have to pay a lot of extra money to get players up to the northeast, and nowadays, when every club's got the money, it's a harder deal to swing. You know, like when we signed Ravanelli, he was like highest paid player in the Premier League. It's not
Fabrizio Ravanelli. God, that takes me back.
Yeah, the facility's not. He was no Emerson. Don't get me wrong. My favourite player, Emerson. Picture of him, signed picture in the corner. He was
Emerson as well.
He was the pick. He was a legendary player. But it's an interesting, because, for instance, that Conor Gallagher situation. Like, my understanding is that he wouldn't want to move to Newcastle, for instance. And I think it's a harder swing for some of these southern lads. I think Chalobah maybe not. And if Newcastle showed interest in him, could he be persuaded to go up there? I'm not so sure. So yeah, a player, especially a foreign player, a London-born player, it does have a major sway. It really does. And there's nothing. No matter how much money you've got, you can't swing it sometimes.
Speaking on the London thing, it's been reported quite heavily that Wan Bissaka wants to move back to London. Do you think that deal to West Ham could happen in the coming days? It looks like it's moving in the right direction.
There's talks going on. Obviously, West Ham are looking at the right back market. Wan Bissaka is a player who Eric Ten Hag doesn't really want to let go, but he's on a lot of money. What people need to remember on these Premier League contracts, it accumulates. So the last year of a player's contract is the highest one of his whole contract. They build up and up and up. They really are big, and he's on good money. So he's probably not going to get a new contract offer at United unless he was to take a wage drop. But United like him. A right back wasn't particularly high United's list of options this summer. It was there, but if they do get rid of him, they're going to have to do another right back. And my understanding, they are looking at a few right backs now and doing their due diligence on potential options. But yeah, Wan Bissaka, West Ham, it ticks a lot of boxes. But United, they won't lose money on the deal. So West Ham are going to have to cover a lot of his wages, an awful lot. And then pay a fee for him as well. It's going to be a big deal. I think it probably will happen. If I'm being honest, to West Ham, I think there's a good chance, but it's not an easy one to do.
So let's move on to the other side of Manchester, the blue side of Manchester, the dark side of Manchester, if you will,
the successful side,
the dark side. They're going to be active in the market. They brought in Savio. It looks as though they may lose Ederson, and there are conflicting reports around Kevin De Bruyne as well. Some reports are saying that he has agreed personal terms with a couple of Saudi clubs. A lot of reports saying he absolutely has not agreed personal terms with some Saudi clubs. Where is your kind of, first of all, what's your knowledge on KDB, and what's your feeling around where he'll end up come the end of the transfer window?
Yeah, City's a really interesting one. De Bruyne, my understanding, I suspect he'll stay till the end of his contract. If he did go, he's got a lot of interest from Saudi. He's also got San Diego, the MLS, a new franchise out there. They like him a lot. And he's previously spoken about his desire to move out to America and to move to a new California franchise, the richest franchise in MLS history. I wouldn't rule them out the equation. But I think he'll have another year at City. It's a big 12 months coming up for City. Pep Guardiola's contract is up in 12 months. Erling Haaland's release clauses kick in 2025, which I think we'll see an awful lot of links with Barcelona come next summer.
Yeah.
Bernardo Silva, I don't think will go. I think City will hold on this year. I think they won't lose anyone they don't want to. Obviously, I think Matheus Nunes might go, Calvin Phillips might go, but no one who, as United fans, you won't be unhappy. You won't be disappointed to see anyone go. But yeah, City's an interesting one. I think they will do something, and I keep an eye on Joshua Kimmich with City. I keep an eye on them.
Okay. That's interesting. Now, something else looming large on the horizon for Manchester City is a date with the FA in November. That's probably going to have quite a big impact on Pep Guardiola's contract and whether he ends up renewing, because if those 115 charges end up sticking, I don't think he's going to want to manage a club in League Two. I just don't think he's going to like going to Macclesfield, for example, for an away day.
Macclesfield actually in the same division as my hometown, Stockton Town, actually next year, Macclesfield.
Really?
I do know that actually. My wife is delighted because Tom off Love Island from last season is playing for Macclesfield, so she actually wants to come to the game. She wants to come to the game. Unfortunately.
Okay. Look, we know that date is going to be in November. What's your understanding around how confident City are of kind of evading some of those charges, and what's your feeling around what's going to happen there?
Speaking to people within the game, people close to City, I don't think anything will happen to City. They'll be suspended, fine, slap on the wrist. I think they are going to fight this to the hill. I think they've got bigger, better lawyers than the FA. I think the FA rules are not fit for purpose, as has been proven by City's countermeasures before. I think that, that's my prediction. I don't think anything will happen to City. I don't think they will have been proven. I don't think anything will go wrong. I think City, if they lose that case, will take them to next court and next court and next court with all their money. Yeah. And I just don't think the Premier League will be able to afford it. I think City have got more money than the Premier League, and they will beat them.
But okay, let's ask a slightly different question. Should they beat the FA? Should it be as simple as I've got more money than you and fancier lawyers, therefore I can break whatever rules that I want? Should it be like that?
I think it's a very simplistic approach. I think considering we see the PSRs coming from the big clubs such as United and Arsenal and the likes, who want to stop clubs like Newcastle from using sponsorship and wealth. I think that's the top 6 in the Premier League have been successful. They don't want to see another Leicester winning the league. They were frightened to death by it, which is what's precipitated all of this. It's the top 6 that brought this on, and I hope that I hope that City do win. I think the Premier League. I want the Premier League to, I'm not an apologist for the Premier League. I think the Premier League should open the transfer window for a month longer. I think they should outspend every league in the world. I want the Premier League to be the best in the world, and I worry about the Premier League, as I just said to you there, where I think Erling Haaland might end up in Barcelona in 25 or 26, and then if you're looking at Barcelona with Nico Williams, Yamal and Haaland, and then you've got Real Madrid with Mbappe, Bellingham, etc. The Premier League will not be the best league in the world, and they need to be very careful about what they're doing to themselves here. They're really kicking themselves up their own backside here, and they need to be very careful. I think we need to get away from all this financial stuff. I know the fans, Man City have won these things not because of the finances, because of quality recruitment. It's as simple as that. And some people are unhappy about some of the sponsorship deal in the Emirates. Arsenal, I always think it's ironic, Arsenal moaning about it when they play out the Emirates Stadium. Like, great, well done. No, I hope for the good of football that City do beat it. I think, they're all... This is a business. Football. It's a football business. Yeah, we're all jealous. No, we'd all like to be owned by Man City's owners at some point. I just get on with it. Just spend the money if we've got it. Let the Premier League dominate the world. Let us dominate the Saudi Pro League.
You know what, Graeme?
Wow.
That is wow. But you know what? I don't disagree entirely. Your take around the top 6 not wanting another Leicester, not wanting anyone to break into that. I mean, look at Villa. Nearly torn apart from PSR, nearly forced Jacob Ramsey, sort of saved.
If the top 6 get the chance, we'll be down to 18, 16 teams. If the top 6 get their own way, we'll be down to 18, 16 teams, 2 teams up and down. Make sure no one gets... Let's not forget, the European Super League, the English clubs were one of the heartbeats of that. Let's not say they weren't backseat drivers. They were one of the driving forces of that.
Yeah, you're right. Liverpool. You're right.
And
with that being said, though, with that being said, as much as PSR is very, very, very unstable and very, very not fit for purpose, as much as we want the Premier League club to go out and be spending hundreds of millions of pounds on players every year and smashing the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid and Juventus out of the water, there is also something to be said for having rules in place to protect the smaller clubs from spending beyond their means. We're talking Everton. Now, Everton are in a real spot of financial difficulty, not because they've got overspent on transfers, but because they've had somebody running the club into the ground in a manner that isn't befitting the founding football club of English football. There is something in there to be said about protecting the smaller clubs, that are protecting clubs from owners that don't necessarily have the best interest of the club at heart. What does that kind of rule set look like to you? Because if it isn't PSR and it isn't just go out and spend whatever you want, lads, there has to be something coming the other way. Do you know what I mean?
I think it should be revenue based. So therefore, it should be allowed if you got rich. But by saying that, protecting the small clubs and the hideous government trying to bring in this governance policy, which is totally wrong, totally bad for football and shouldn't be allowed to happen. Football isn't broken in England. It really, we're trying to break the best product in the world, and it shouldn't happen. If an Arab prince wants to buy Middlesbrough, and make them the best team in England, he should be allowed to do so. Great. If he wants to buy Rochdale and make them that, he should be allowed to do so. And you can't govern. The government should not be governing this. Other teams should not be governing this, and especially the top six shouldn't be governing this, because they're going to make sure it's a glass house that nobody else can enter, and that's what's happening at the moment. As we said, they're making sure the United, the Arsenals of this world. It's not just United; it's the Arsenal, Chelsea, etc. They're making sure that no one else can join their private members club. They want a 16-team Premier League. They don't want to be giving money to Southampton for TV money. They really don't. You ask any Premier League club, they want the Barcelona Real model. Whereas every club in Spain wants the Premier League model. Every big team in England wants the Spanish model. They want to be Real Madrid and Barca taking 80% of the TV revenue.
Yeah. I mean, there was a vote recently among Premier League clubs where they voted on the bottom rule, right? Where they can spend the revenue of the bottom earning club. And I think that's going to be probably ratified in the next 12 months.
That's much more like it. And, because we had them we had these silly AFL rules where they built them rules in, didn't they, where Accrington had the same spending power as Sunderland, which just wasn't right. So an average gate of 30,000 against an average gate of 3,000. And by bringing in this revenue one, United will still dominate because they've got 72,000 every week or whatever it is. So it should be allowed that, but they should be allowed to have. At the moment, Jack Walker and Blackburn would not be allowed to happen again, and that's just wrong.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Dill, go on.
No, I was going to say, do you think there's a regret from the looks of the Newcastle owners from buying Newcastle due to the restrictions they have to work under with PSO? Do you think that might be a regret for them for putting as much as they put into the club? Or
I don't think we'll be able to answer that for a decade. Let's see what silverware is in St James's Park. Obviously it break my heart slightly as a Middlesbrough fan, because I do love the tweet every year that Middlesbrough are the most successful North East team this century. I think this might be the last. I keep thinking the last few years that I won't be able to send that tweet much longer. But I think another 10 years we'll be able to answer that question.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. That is probably going to be the end of the transfer section, and that's a brilliant way to end it as well. Graeme, I think we need to have you on every week, mate, if I'm honest. What we are going to do now is the very last section that we do with every podcast and every guest. We're going to do some fan questions. So earlier on today on the Attacking Football Twitter, we asked you guys to send in your questions for Graeme. Producer Alfie, you've spent some time curating those questions. So do you want to go ahead with the first one?
Yep, the first one is from @WanderingRed7, and he said, "Are the Richard Rios to United rumours of any truth?"
Oh yeah,
the Colombian midfielder. Yeah, I've seen. Yeah. He played well in the Copa America. United have got an outstanding scouting network in South America. I believe he's on the radar, but Ugarte, if all they are going to sign a South American, but it's going to be Ugarte, is my belief.
Okay.
Next one from @EllieAngrove01. She said, "Do you think Everton's current financial situation will affect their season?"
Yes, to a certain extent. But I think with Everton, they're a good example. I think their recruitment will dictate their form, as it did last season. When they spent whatever, I don't care what money they spent on Beto was, whether it was £1 or 10 million, it was too much. And that was just bad recruitment. That's just bad. There's some deals out there which is just a bad recruitment, and Everton, I think, if they get Lindstrom in, I think he's a tremendous player. The Napoli boy who's at Frankfurt, I think he'd be great. I think they will do some good deals. I think Calvin Phillips might end up there on loan to Everton. I think they're really competing for him. It's going to be fascinating. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin might go. Whoever they need a striker, Everton, to probably replace Calvert-Lewin. Obviously, they do like Armando Broja.
Chelsea,
he's a tough one where he could either, I do see a bit of Mitrovic in him, where I think he could go and be amazing somewhere else, but he could also be that's a risky one, isn't it? But yeah, I think I don't necessarily think it's Everton's financial situation. Yeah, it stops them spending, because Everton should be spending more than they are, but they're still spending some money. They're still spent a bit of money out there. So yeah, you have to say, yeah, the current predicament does affect them a little bit. Not as much as we think, though.
Yeah. Okay. So next, at Chris Slater, this is from, and he said, Chelsea have been so much quieter this window compared to the ones previously. Do you reckon there's still one big move possibly to go through regarding the goalkeeper position or right wing?
Yes, the goalkeeping situation is interesting. They were, towards the end of last season, they were looking at the goalkeeping situation. They were interested in Ramsdale. Mcbennett was someone who they've always liked, actually. But they've got so much money tied up there from Kepa, Sanchez, Petrovic, who...
Lukaku.
In terms of goalkeeper situation.
Right, I see, yeah.
Them three. And the problem is, you've got the team of them three we've named, and there's probably not a... There's definitely not a top four goalkeeper amongst them. That's the problem they've got. They're all okay, aren't they? There's not really for instance, if David De Gea went into Chelsea tomorrow, I think he'd be their number one. That's the situation Chelsea find themselves in. But Kepa, who actually, this is something I haven't had confirmed. I've asked Chelsea to question this, and they probably can't answer it, to be fair, but I suspect it is true that as it stands, we think Kepa might be currently the highest paid goalkeeper in world football.
Yeah.
And which Edison hopes to break. And that's just the situation that they're in here, where I think if Chelsea didn't have that situation, we might see them going for a Madashvili, or probably not an Aaron Ramsdale in the situation, but I think we would see them do it. And they might still go for another keeper. I wouldn't rule it out. The right winger, they do want one. They want someone to play on that right-hand side. Obviously, they missed out on Elise. I still think they might do it. And obviously, the central striking role. Let's keep an eye on that. Victor Gyökeres hasn't gone anywhere yet. I'm not saying just for Chelsea, but Arsenal as well. We've still got a good 5 to 6 weeks left in the window so far. We're still quite early. I think because we had that false PSR deadline, everyone got excited and think, "Oh, nothing's happening now." We still had another 8 weeks of the window to go when that finished. Yeah. So I think it got everyone excited a bit too early. So yeah, I think Chelsea could still do. I think a striker and right winger are more likely than a goalkeeper at this point, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did the three of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Next, this is from at United Shiv, and he said, after the signings of Lenny Yoro and Joshua Zirkzee, what do Manchester United plan to do next?
Centre midfielder, right back if Wan Bissaka goes. They want another centre half as well. They do want one, which I think will be De Ligt, personally.
Yeah.
And I think the good thing, I was always told that, they were going to give Ahmad that chance to work on the right wing. When they were linked after Elise. Elise was, the way it was described to me, United's interested in him. It was a bit like the Euro, where he was just too good a generational talent not to go for. I'm not sure about that. I think I love Ahmad. I saw a lot of him at Sunderland, and he was as good in the Championship as Michael Elise was. I think Ahmad is as talented as Michael Elise. I genuinely believe that, guys.
Absolutely.
I think Ahmad is amazing, an amazing talent. He just hasn't had the hype around him like some other players. And I think Ahmad will be, with under Ten Hag's tutelage, I think he'll shine this season. So I don't think we'll see a right winger come in. So yeah, centre mid, centre back, and a full back who ideally can play both sides, but a right back if Wan Bissaka goes.
Yeah. Last of all, this is from at Scott Mason 00. Liverpool have been very quiet in the market so far. Do you expect this to everybody is back from their holiday? Do you expect a defensive midfielder to be signed?
I don't at Liverpool, no. It's my understanding, I think Stefan Bejatic, I think they're going to give him a chance. Everyone forgets about him. What a talent.
Yeah.
And I think Curtis Jones could play in that role as well. I think he's more than capable. I think they're quite strong in midfield, Liverpool. I do. Szoboszlai, McAllister, if Bejatic comes in and plays how he could do, I think we're more likely to see a centre half and a forward. I think they're letting Slot assess the squad, and with the same as Arsenal and Man City and Liverpool, very similar. It's about quality over quantity now. They don't need to rush to sign someone they don't want. I think Liverpool have learnt their mistakes from when they signed Thiago, who everyone forgets he's one of the worst signings in Premier League history for me. He really, and I say that from the fact that when he came in, he was meant to be one of the best midfielders in the world when he came in. Everyone forgets that. He was such a major flop for Liverpool. It didn't impact them massively because they had someone like Mo Salah stepping up, and he really papered over that crack, didn't he? So, and let's see, because the thing with Liverpool's forward line as well is we know where Jurgen Klopp liked to play these players. So you had Diaz left, you had Nunes playing off the left, you had Gakpo playing out wide. We need to see where Slot fancies these players. He might end up playing Gakpo on the right or centrally. We saw Gakpo for Holland playing so well. He might play Diaz. So I think we've got to see what Slot does with this squad. But I think we'll see the centre half come in for sure, and then maybe a winger as well at Liverpool. But I don't think we'll see a midfielder, and I don't think they're desperate for a midfielder.
I mean, you're speaking about incomings. We've got talking about outgoings for a second. Mohamed Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, 3 names who dominated Klopp's era at Liverpool. Are they on their way out? All of them being linked to, with a move away from the club. Trent to Real Madrid, Van Dijk and Salah to Saudi Arabia. Any truth to those?
Trent, I think, will stay. He'll sign a new deal. I think he'll become the highest paid player and become captain. I think Van Dijk will sign a new deal. I think he wants to stay. Liverpool do. Salah's a different kettle of fish. No, it was always my understanding that Salah and Klopp weren't the best of friends at Liverpool. But hey, it always shocked some Liverpool fans when I told them that. But it's like, well, you don't have to be best friends with everyone you work with. But Salah, he is the crown jewel for the Saudi Pro League. He wants to go there. He is that player. He wants to go to that area of the world, the Middle East, and inspire young players. I think it's a bit snobbish of us over here in Western Europe, where we don't realise how big a name Mo Salah is in the Muslim community in the Middle East. Yeah. He is the big name over there. He's the world name. He's still a world force. And I think if he shows any inclination to want to leave, I wouldn't rule it out this summer still. I think he's the one player, as I said, the Saudi Pro League would pay a world record fee for, because he's the one who they want. So I still don't see Salah signing a new contract. I think they might have a nice partner in the ways. I still expect the Saudi Pro League to test them this summer. I expect them to test it in January. And then Liverpool may accept that. Because I think from Salah's point of view, he's leaving. He would leave as a superstar. I still don't think he's had the credit he deserves at Liverpool, and I think some in his camp put the blame into Liverpool for that. I don't think they think that Liverpool pushed him enough. I think it hurt him. I think it hurt him not getting the captaincy when Henderson left, and Fabinho, etc. I think that hurt Salah, from what I'm told.
Yeah.
But let's see how he does in the slot. He might be totally on board with Slot and thinks, hey, I love it here now. I'm signing another 4-year deal, and that may happen. I think Trent and Van Dijk do sign new deals. I must admit, I think Trent is a Liverpool captain in waiting. I think he's going to be the highest paid player. So yeah, I think that one happens, and I think Van Dijk signs a new one as well. I don't see Van Dijk wanting to leave Liverpool, I'm told, and Slot loves him, so I don't see any reason that he would go either.
Okay, well, look, I think we've got time for one more question each, boys. So if there was any other players that you wanted to talk about that you didn't get to, we're going to consider this a fan question from each of you because you're all fans of Graeme. So Alex, very quickly, yours.
It's João Felix, actually. We spoke about INEOS a lot today and how good they've been operating, but Aston Villa's ownership in recent years to me has been a star of the Premier League. What are we feeling with João Felix? Is he Villa bound?
Interesting one, because obviously I talk about recruitment and off-field recruitment, and there's been nobody better than Aston Villa. Unai Emery and Monchi, amazing stuff. There is an interest there. I think if it was a deal that was on the table, Atletico want to sell him. They want to get rid of him permanently. I don't think there's a deal there at Barcelona for him anymore, because Nico Williams, they're all their eggs are in that basket for Barcelona. I think Barcelona, maybe if he's still at Atletico in the last week of the window, they'll take him back on loan, as I think they'll do with Cancelo. So me personally, I think Felix will end up back at Barcelona on loan in the last week in August with Cancelo. Villa, I just don't think the deal will add up for Villa financially. I think it'd be far too expensive. And let's not forget, Villa have brought in, we know Diaby's going, which I think is a real crying shame. One of my favourite Premier League players. I think it's a real shame that he's moving to the Pro League. I love Diaby. But I think, let's not forget, they brought in Samuel Illing Jr. and they brought Philogene back. Philogene, guys, who what a talent this boy is. From the AFL have produced some brilliant players in recent times, from the Carvalhos to Harvey Elliott's to the Amads, as we said, and Philogene is up there with the best of them. He's a special player. So, no, I think there is an interest there. That's the question. Like, we do like him. He's been offered around. It's been pushed by Atletico. I suspect, though, that he might end up back on loan at Barcelona because that's the deal that he might want.
Okay. Dylan, your final one?
How likely are Man United to win the race for Cheeto Obi Martin?
Oh, yes, the Danish boy. Norwegian.
Danish boy.
Danish.
A lot going on. Yeah, and I actually wrote a story on him tonight. Yeah, he was up in Carrington. He's agreed terms verbally. He hasn't officially left Arsenal yet, so I don't think United had got the streamers and welcome banners out just yet because it's what he could end up being. It could end up Arsenal keeping him signing a new deal. I think he's more likely to stay in England. He's got options everywhere. Bayern and Borussia like him as well. I'd say 70-30 United bound. I wouldn't rule him out staying at Arsenal just yet.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, look, I think we've gotten everything that we wanted to get from you, Graeme. So thank you so much. I think we got a lot more than we were expecting as well in some aspects. So brilliant. Thank you so much. That's all we have time for. So my thanks as ever to Alex, to Dylan, to Alfie, and of course special thanks to Graeme. Please don't forget to press the subscribe button. It means everything to what we do here, and we will see you next week. Take care. See you later.